Hey, this is Joe from Home Studio Corner. Today we're going to talk about vocal recording, specifically 3 different techniques you can use to record vocals and why the third one is my personal favorite. But before we dive in, I've got a brand new freebie for you. You can download this. It's called the Ultimate Recording Checklist. It's one thing to get good at making your recordings sound good. It's another thing entirely to learn how to produce your recordings, meaning what parts do I record? That's a real hurdle for a lot of people. This will help. It has an accompanying video that will explain how this works and how to use this, but you can print this out, keep this in your studio, and help you think through every time you record a new track, okay, which of these am I trying to hit with this particular track? Super valuable tool. You can get that at homestudiocorner.com/checklist. And if you sign up for this between now and May 8th, 2023, you'll be entered to win a free copy of my recording course, which is called Home Studio Recording. It is my flagship recording course where I teach you everything you need to know about recording and producing in a home studio. Go to homestudiocorner.com/checklist to get your copy of this. All right. Let's dive in. Okay, I'm going to share with you 3 approaches to recording vocals. These aren't by any means the only 3 ways, but they're the 3 ways that I've done it over the years, and I really like the third way, and I really don't like the first 2, and I'll explain why. So the first approach is what I'm calling the full takes and comping approach, meaning, great name, right? It's this idea that is probably what you've learned, where to record vocals, you record from start to finish. You start the beginning of the song, you record the whole thing, then you do another take. And another take, and another take. A lot of times people want to do 5 takes of the vocal. And the way you do that technology-wise, in Studio One, they're called layers. In Pro Tools, they're called playlists. It's where a single channel can have multiple versions of the underlying audio. So the idea is, for now, let's just record 5 takes of the vocal, and surely we'll be able to compile together a great take by pulling bits and pieces from each of those 5 takes, right? Here's what that looks like.
Trudging the cadence along and the ending it feels all wrong and there's nothing to fill my mind. Trudging the
Okay, we have our 5 vocals recorded. The next day, the next week, we come back and say, all right, let's comp these together. And that looks like listening to each one and choosing the best one for each phrase throughout the entire song. So something like this.
Trudging the cadence along and trudging the.
And then I do that for every phrase and say, okay, I liked take 3 on that phrase, and then you do it again for the next phrase, and you say, I liked to take 1, and then I liked to take 2. Like, I felt my face just during that process of listening to those 5 phrases, just that, like, 2 seconds of audio, I felt my face, like, go numb. Like, my face was like, huh.
Trudging the.
I got so bored doing that, and that kind of gets me to my point. There are a couple of pros with this approach. One being it's a little more relaxing for the singer. They can just sing the song. So especially if they're not used to being in the studio, you just set them up with a good headphone mix and say, ready, go. Sing the whole song. And then when you're done, you say, cool, let's do it again. And you have them do it several times with the idea of what we can do later is go through and kind of piece together the perfect take. That's nice and relaxing for the singer. The cons of this approach, unfortunately, are it can wear out your singer. Like singing this song all the way through 5 times and then saying, okay, cool, let's move on to the next song. Unless you're dealing with somebody who sings a lot every day and sings big, huge, long, hours-long concerts every week, their voice is going to wear out before you get to song 2. That's true for me, and it's probably true for most home studio people. So this approach, if you just want to do one song at a time, I guess could work, but you're going to wear the vocalist out pretty quickly after what I would guess probably one song, depending on the song. The other big con for this is you're giving your future self more work. There's 5 takes here to listen through. I've got to literally go through this song 5 times for each phrase. Not only does that sound boring, but it also takes up a whole lot of time and doesn't necessarily mean you'll end up with the best vocal you can have. You could have 5 takes and the person made the same mistake 5 times. Guess what? If you're not the singer, they're gone. You're in the studio trying to fix this. It's just not a good situation. It would have been better to fix that on the recording day, but now you can't because it's days or weeks or months later. Now that leads me to my second approach, which is recording each section at a time. That's basically what I did here to demonstrate it for you. But in the first approach, we're doing full takes, starting at the beginning, singing all the way through to the end, and repeating the process. This approach is a little easier on the singer in that you can just focus on the verse, and let's do 5 takes of the verse. And then maybe let's go do verse 2, and then let's come back and do the choruses and do 5 takes of each. You're just breaking up that same exact process, right? It's still 5 takes of the entire vocal, but you're chunking it down into specific sections, which for some singers can be a little easier to kind of wrap their head around. I just have to sing the verse, then I can move on, and we can worry about the chorus later. It works well, and those are the pros for going with this approach. It's easier on the singer. You can just kind of hone in and focus on one section at a time. The cons are pretty much the same as before. You end up with 5 takes of every part, and you have to go sift through it. You could still have 5 terrible takes of the same part. Just because you got 5 doesn't mean there's a good one in there, and you have to go through. You have potentially hours of work ahead of you going through and finding all the great parts. For me personally, it's just not fun and it's not worth it. Here's my favorite approach. It's more fun, it's more efficient, and it gets better results. What's not to love about that? Now, it's not going to be for everyone, but if you've never tried this approach, I encourage you to give it a shot on a vocal session. You might fall in love with it like I have. So my approach uses almost no takes at all. Let's just actually get rid of these. I'll show it to you. So I will do something like this. Let me record a vocal. So the idea is I'll do a take of the vocal and I'll just say good or not. And typically the first one is not good. It's a warm-up take. Then I'll do a second one, good or no, and the answer is probably maybe. And then I'll do a third one, and if that one feels good, that's what I work from. So let's do that real quickly. Let me record just this verse again. I'll go to a different verse so you don't have to listen to the same thing again. Let's go to verse 1, and I will track a vocal real quick.
Bore me with my own obsession, the purpose in my pointless mission. Then nothing, again I dive.
So I sing it once, and I say, nah, that's not the one I want. And then I sing it again. And the idea here is I want to sing one take that's amazing. I know. That's a lot of pressure. But the goal is to have a take that is pretty solid. And then instead of just recording more solid takes and then comping later, I go ahead and get the job done now. And I don't do any comping. It's almost like real-time comping or punching in, which is the common phrase for it. So this isn't a new technique, but a lot of folks get so lost in I can have 11,000 takes and then comp it together. This is amazing. It's not amazing. It's more work for you, and it doesn't guarantee a good result. So then I'll get the vocal that I'm good with, and then I'll go through and I literally will just listen phrase by phrase and make sure I'm happy with it. If I'm happy with it, I move on. If I'm not happy with it, I record it again. Literally right here, sitting in front of the microphone. It's a really kind of almost clinical approach. But I got the nice creative take first, the full take, and then I'm just going through and finding spots that aren't right and fixing them. It's very similar to the way like a typical Nashville session goes. Everybody records a take, and then the drummer says, I could use a whole other take, which is fine. Or oftentimes, once they've had 1 or 2 takes, they say, okay, let me get the 4 bars leading into the chorus. And you just punch those in, and then you move on. That's similar approach here. So we're going to listen to the first phrase.
Bore me with my own obsession.
Don't like that one, so I'm going to punch it in. Here we go.
Bore me with my own obsession, purpose in my pointless mission. Then nothing, again I dive.
Okay, I liked the rest of that phrase. The again, maybe I didn't like as much, so maybe I'll just punch in this section here, and I'll just do that by just pressing the record button a couple times.
Mission, then nothing, again I dive.
So it kind of just punched in that one little section there. Maybe I didn't like the punch. I can undo it and go back and try it again.
Then nothing, again I dive.
And I will go through the entire vocal this way. Listen, nope, rewind, punch in. Cool. Listen, listen, rewind, punch in. Cool. And I'll do that over the entire song. Now, it typically isn't every phrase that I'm punching in. If it is, that means that wasn't a good take and I should have just done a better take overall. So I might just go back and do a full vocal. But then I just go in and say, cool, 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 not cool, re-record. Cool, cool, cool. And I just go through the song that way. Now, it may seem like semantics. It may seem like I'm just telling you the same thing in a different way. And I guess in some ways I could see how you make that argument. But for me, guess what? When the vocal session is done, I don't have to do any more editing to this vocal. I don't have to go through an endless list of comps and comp together the most perfect one. Because a lot of people, if you see that there are 5 and you listen to take 1 and it sounds amazing, guess what? You're going to go listen to takes 2, 3, 4, and 5 just to see if there's an even more amazing part. And it's this endless process that just takes up hours of your time and doesn't mean you get a good result. With this, I can say, oh, I've gone flat on that last note. And I do that every time I sing it. I'm going to fix that right now. Ba-na-na-na, and make sure I get up on that note. Things like that, I can fix it in real time and then just punch that in. The punching in part is a little less musical, but it's kind of like I'm like a mechanic going in and fixing a few mistakes that I made along the way. So I get the musical full take, all the energy and emotion that goes with that, and then I punch in the sections that need a little fixing. And then by the end of that vocal session, I've not only recorded my vocal, I've edited it, because look, it's all edited and ready to go. I don't now have to schedule another 3-hour editing session per song. I've done that in the past. It is the worst, and I didn't get any better vocals out of it. This gets me better vocals because I'm fixing it right now, I'm getting it right at the source, and I'm making sure that every phrase is something I'm happy with, and I move on. I'm not putting off the work until later because we're busy. Why not get it done now? And then later we can just start mixing the song, for example, instead of going through the painstaking comping process. I'll be the first to admit this is a little more of an advanced approach to recording. Not all vocalists will like it, but if you can get them to try it, I think you'll find it is a much more efficient way to work and gets great results in less time, which is like my favorite thing ever. All right, final reminder, go to homestudiocorner.com/checklist to get your free copy of the Ultimate Recording Checklist. There's a video that goes with it, explains how it works. It's delightful. It's new. You haven't seen this yet. Go check it out. And if you enter before May 8th, you'll get entered to win a copy of my recording course, which is phenomenal. Go check it out. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.